So what you probably see a lot of on social media today is things like side hustle versus the corporate world. Both of them have their pros and cons, but at the moment I would say the world is actually leading towards side hustles versus the corporate world. You know, when you look at the corporate world, they say people are underappreciated, underpaid, benefits aren't as good, whereas side hustles have been glamorous. Fast cars, holidays, money, women, it's been glamorized. And I think that's a problem because, in actual fact, it doesn't come down to which one's better. It comes down to what's better for you. Some people do better in the side hustle because they don't like a boss, they like to make their own money, and they like to have that level of freedom. Whereas for the corporate world, some people need structure. Some people like to follow rather than lead. They like to have a small role. That's all they do, and they contribute to a larger goal. So I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. I just think that it comes down to who you are. Now, I've got experience from both of these categories. So, side hustles, I have been trying side hustles for as long as I knew I wanted to make money and go on holidays. My first side hustle, I was selling vintage clothes on Depop. So I would order clothes from wholesalers, and then I'd take them out of the box, I'd wash them, take pictures, measure them up, create listings, and I made money. I sold them. I sold everything at profit, except the only problem was I just turned 18. I don't understand what it means to run a business, so as the money's coming in, I'm just spending it. I'm just spending it. So I couldn't tell you how much money I actually made. All I know is that I sold the items for a profit. Anyway, some time goes on and I try some more side hustles, drop shipping, SMMA. Those don't work for me. And then I get put onto Amazon FBA and I give that a go and I invest some money into it. And within a week of opening my store, I've made some sales, and I actually go pretty long with this side hustle. I go up to about 8 months. On paper, I'm making money, but because I'm using a credit card, I'm constantly paying money out. So, that money is never in my account. And the only reason I shut down that business was because of Amazon IP issues. I got hit with an IP claim. I tried to fight it. And although I had necessary evidence, I couldn't get through to a human being. And so as months went on where they withhold payment, I still had other direct debits. And before I knew it, I was out of cash. I had to shut that business down. But I've also got experience in the corporate world. So I've currently got a corporate job. And I find it enjoyable. There is an aspect of structure, and this is my role. These are the things I need to do every day. I wake up, I do A, B, and C, and I somewhat enjoy it, And the benefits are good. I get to work from home. I get to spend more time at home. Healthcare plans. We call it a pension over here, but like your 401ks. The benefits are good. And so I do believe that it depends on who you are as a person. So what I want to do is go through the pros and cons of both, and then kind of explore, what's going to be right for what type of people. So let's start with side hustles. The pros of having a side hustle and running your own business. Number one, you can make your own money. You can look at how much money your company makes in a month. You can look at that bottom line and go, no, I want more. And the next month, if you put the work in, you can just make more money. It's as simple as that. There is no waiting for a pay rise. There is no, I've got to make sure my performance is on top so I could be included for a bonus. No. Next month, just work a bit harder, a bit smarter, find ways to optimize income, and you can make more money. The only corporate job that comes close to this is jobs on a commission basis, so typically sales roles. But anywhere else in corporate, you can't do this, instantly. You kind of have to wait for the opportunities for pay rises and things of that nature to come towards you. The next thing is you're on your own time. You're not clocking in for a 9 to 5, an 8 to 4, 7 to 3, whatever. You are not clocking in, okay? You start work whenever you like. You could wake up at 5 and do a couple hours of work and then go to the gym and say goodbye to your family in the morning when they all go off to school. And then you can return to work a bit later on. And then if you've done all your work for the day, you could clock out. You could just watch your emails. You could shut your laptop but you could be doing anything else. And if you really wanted, you could return back to work at night time. You are on your own time. You make your own time. You take whatever time off you need. You are the boss. Okay. And the final thing that comes in tandem with that, you can work from wherever you like. And I know working from home has become more of a normal thing since the pandemic, but you could go on into another country. You could go to Bali, Australia, America, South America. You could go to all these places and just start working. No one's going to have a problem with it, as long as you can mitigate time zones. But again, it's your business. It's up to you. You make the choices. But now, here are the downsides to running your own business and having a side hustle is everything relies on you. You are the final man. There is no person above you can hand this off to. There is none of that, okay? Everything relies on you. You're responsible for making the money. You're responsible for customer service. You're responsible for delivering the service or the product. It all comes down to you. And that can be really tough for people sometimes, depending on who you are. You typically work longer hours. Now, I know this is counterintuitive to being on your own time, but people who have side hustles and run businesses, they typically love it, so they choose to work longer hours. I do believe you could mitigate this and say, no, I'm not going to work as many hours, but you typically do work longer, more intensive even. And then that comes on to more mental toll. You have 100 million things running through your mind at once. Your brain doesn't just shut off and disassociate at 5 and at the weekend. You are constantly thinking about it, constantly, especially if you're in a position where it's kind of sink or swim. You need to keep making money this month and the next month to make sure your business survives. That's a huge mental toll, They say one of the number one aging factors for people is stress and cortisol, and if you can't lower that, then, you're going to see the effect on your body. The side hustle is for the person with high tolerance for stress, high tolerance for pain, but also high achievers, people who don't mind everything being on them. In fact, they like the responsibility. Without the responsibility, they struggle. That's the type of person who would benefit from a side hustle. So we're going to move to the corporate side now, and the first of the pros is structure. Structure, this is where people who love a routine and plans really succeed, because a 9 to 5 is structured. As it says in the title, you clock in from 9 till 5. And typically, you have your roles and responsibilities in your team, and when your team comes together doing all their roles and responsibilities, it adds to an overarching goal. So the 9 to 5 is all about structure. You have the same tasks at the same time, same schedule, 5 days a week, and that's where people who love structure and plans, they typically succeed. And so along with this structure, you get benefits. Now, benefits is different across companies, and that will probably be the same till the end of time, other than the few things where your local country's legislation demands certain things. Benefits are interchangeable, but depending on where you are, your benefits can be great. Healthcare plans for you and your family, a certain amount of parental leave when having a baby, company cars, pension and 401ks. Benefits can really help you out, and when you get to a certain point in income from a corporate job, it's no longer about how much money can companies pay you, it's what benefits they can give you. And then the final thing is potential for progression. Now, I know people say that you can't progress as much as you could 15 years ago, but I do believe if you're in the right situation, the right environment, and you've got the right mindset, you can climb yourself up the ladder and get yourself those rewards. I do believe it is possible. It's definitely not out of reach. Otherwise, how would your bosses and their bosses be in the position they are today? Now we're going to move on to the cons, and I'd say the number one is most likely dealing with colleagues. You don't get to choose your team. You don't get to choose your boss. You are put in the mix. And sometimes that's a great thing. Sometimes you're in the right environment, you've got the right people around you with the right mindset and the right behavioural act, and it's fantastic. But sometimes you can be put into a team or a new job and the people just aren't right for you. You just don't get on, you just don't click. And that can have a major impact on how you work, team culture. And sometimes it can be really hard to change your culture when people on the team aren't up for change. So I'd say that's probably one of the main cons for a corporate job. Then feeling stuck. So with a side hustle, If you want to go make more money, if you want to move into another field, you can go do that right away. But with a corporate job, if you want that promotion and you want to move on, you sometimes have to wait. You have to wait until the company's ready to give it to you. Sometimes you're waiting for someone above you to leave their job or retire. And sometimes you just have to wait, and it sucks. And the final thing is being sucked into fantasy. Now, what I mean by this is what you see with side hustles these days. A lot of people are selling the lifestyle. And as someone who is employed in a corporate role and you get the same paycheck every month, and with the way the world is, things can become tight. So when you see people advertising a method that allows lifestyle with luxury cars, holidays, houses, luxury items, it can be easy to get sucked in. It can be easy to see that because it's pulling on the emotional parts of your brain. So being able to be sucked in, and it will really draw you away from your work if you are passionate about it, but you see that and you kind of start thinking, is the grass greener? The next couple of weeks, your work can be affected because you care less. You do care less. So those are the pros and cons of a corporate job. All in all, it depends on who you are as a person. If you're someone who is a go-getter, achiever, self-starter, you like the responsibility, you like the pressure, you believe that diamonds are built by pressure, a side hustle is for you. You could do well in a side hustle. Once you kind of do the takeoff and you're in the air, you'll do well. But for the people who like structure, they like the same things at the same time, that's where they thrive, that's where you'll get the most out of them. A corporate job is probably for you. And don't get it twisted, corporate jobs, there's great opportunities out there. You can make great amounts of money with good benefits, and you can enjoy work. Just because you have to be there doesn't mean you have to hate it. There's ways to make it enjoyable. Caring about your work, talking to your colleagues and finding out about them and who they are. These things can transform your corporate job and make it a lot more enjoyable. Ultimately, you need to do what's right for you. That's what I believe. I don't believe a side hustle is correct. I don't believe a corporate job is either. I believe it's whatever's right for you. I can enjoy a corporate job and I can enjoy a side hustle. It's going to be what's right for me in the moment, and that's exactly how you should be thinking about it.